by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Welcome to Game Over Calgary. It's the first time that I'm doing this one. I'm used to Game Over Montreal, but you know what? If you doubt my credentials, I'll see if I can find during the stream. I've got a picture of me during my grade 12 grad trip wearing a Blasty hoodie back when Blasty was around the first time. So I've got Flames credentials in there somewhere. I grew up partially in Alberta, so I do know a bit about the Calgary Flames, but I will say this is the first full Flames game that I've watched this season, and I've got some takes for you. I've got some takes. I will say that the Flames on this Black Friday in the US gave us a deal, 40% off the effort. All right, we've got a great show for you today. Unfortunate loss for the Flames, but we've got Ian Olin from Russian Machine Never Breaks, which is fantastic. It's great to talk to Ian for the first time off of Twitter, really, and that's going to be really fun. But before we get into the show, we got to tell you, think you know what way it's going to go? I thought so earlier today when I thought the Carolina Hurricanes were going to beat the Boston Bruins, but the Bruins are the Bruins and came back and won that one down 2-0 to 3-2 in overtime. Make your best bet with Sports Interaction. Whether it's the World Cup, hockey, football, or basketball, Sports Interaction has you covered. Bet pregame, live in play, or on one of our many prop bets. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now and see all sports betting has to offer. You want to bet? Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Now, I know that you guys are probably missing Auddie and Peter, but we got a great guest I'm going to bring in right now. Longtime friend of SDPN, Ian Olin. Ian, how you doing? Oh, I'm going to have to switch you on Zoom here because it's capturing the wrong thing. There we go. Should be good. How's it going?
You know what? I'm doing great. As bad as Flames fans are feeling today, this was probably one of the best games the Capitals have played all year, and they've had a lot of stinkers. So I needed that for my soul. But yeah, it was kind of one-sided. The first period, I thought Calgary was pretty excellent, but just couldn't put the puck in the net. I was telling you beforehand that I thought it seemed like they were struggling with the Capital One Arena bad ice. They just could not string good plays together at all.
Yeah, and that is something like one of the things that I look at when I look at what team is playing better is who's getting their passes through. And the Calgary Flames could not, after the first period, could not make a pass. Whether it was great stick position from the Washington Capitals, who I thought really played a great defensive hockey game tonight, especially in front of their net, made things pretty easy for Darcy Kemper, even though he made some fantastic saves in this shutout. But the Capitals, every time they gained the zone against Calgary, even in the first period where they only had like a couple of decent chances, it was either a from below the goal line into the high slot, low to high pass one-timer, or across the Royal Road one-timer. Like, it was all these great plays where you could tell from the outset that even if the Capitals weren't getting the possession that they wanted, they were getting the shots they wanted.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the Capitals have been playing different since TJ Oshie came back. I didn't really quite appreciate what kind of impact a healthy TJ Oshie was for the Caps. They went from a team that looked like one of the worst in the entire league. So he's been involved in, I believe, every regulation goal the Caps have scored. I'm not sure he did on the Ovi one, but he's been involved in pretty much every goal they've scored the last two games, and he's brought an energy back to this team that they badly needed. The team's also playing a much better defensive hockey with their forwards, and I think that's had a huge impact. And you know what? We can't undersell the fact that it was a reverse retro night for them. I think they have the top selling reverse retro again. I'm wearing this great ugly fit today for the show. So all in all, it was a great day. And again, I'm so sorry that we're not speaking on better circumstances, Flames fans. But thanks for having me. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm sure it would have been a more exciting game from Flames. You could even like stomach the loss, right? But I feel like this is one that the Flames really needed to win to get this road trip feeling a little better. Mm-hmm. I know they had a really tight game against the Penguins where that one went to overtime and the Penguins just I think it went to shootout actually, and the Penguins won it in the shootout. But the Flames have played a lot of games this season where they've played well and just like one thing goes wrong at the wrong time and they end up taking the L, or they end up falling apart at the end of the game, or, Jacob Markstrom has struggled pretty mightily this season so far, although I don't think that he was the issue in this game.
Yeah. That Kuzi goal, what did you think of the Kuzi goal? The 1-on-3, he kind of slid it under Markstrom's pads, but I felt like that was kind of lackadaisical D too.
Yeah, I thought if you go 1-on-3 and score, even if you're as talented as Evgeny Kuznetsov, the defense didn't do a good job.
No.
But at the same time, Markstrom's got to get that pad down. Like,
Yeah.
it's one thing with, I know originally I watched the Capitals feed, and Ben and Auddie was saying that he thought that he went around Markstrom. That would be one thing, or like going 5-hole, but to go underneath the pad, I
Yeah.
think that's not great. That's the one goal I thought it would have been great to get a save there from Markstrom.
It was iffy. And then, Lucic taking that interference penalty and Hanifin scored. Oh, that I thought the comeback was on then. I was really worried. Again, the Caps have been awful this year. As somebody who loves the team, maybe they should have started kind of a youth injection this year, but they kind of tripled down on their veteran players, and they have paid the consequences dearly this year. Again, so like I am surprised as heck that I'm here talking to you from a 3-0 shutout win. I just did not see that coming at all. But I really thought the comeback was on after that, and then it was a penalty and a power play for the Caps the other way, and then Ovi scored on it, right? And so it was just a big swing. I don't know if you saw it, but Alex Ovechkin's oldest son, Ovi Jr., who's like a prodigy at hockey, Ovi's wife is in Russia, but his son was at the game. And so after he scored, he high-fived his son through the glass a few times, and I thought that was really awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool. I mean, you and I are both dads, so I think we're probably both suckers for like the kid player interactions. I know, like, we saw it a bunch during the playoff run with the Montreal Canadiens a couple years ago with Carey Price and his daughters. That was really special. Or when he came back last year after injury and his family was joining in there. So like that stuff is just, it's so special. And I did write down, I wanted to ask you a question, just see if you could give me an over-under on Ovi. He's got 791 goals right now. Do you think his total goals for his career is over the combination of Steven Stamkos and Matt Duchene, or under?
Okay, so Stamkos he is over 500 now, right?
Not quite.
Okay, well, he's about to be.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Over? I'm going to say over.
He's one over the combination of Steven Stamkos and Matt Duchene.
That's hilarious. Oh my God, it's wild. Like watching him as a fan and a reporter all these years it's been extremely. It's hard to really I think when he hits 800, it's gonna hit a lot of people. That holy F, this guy is in a league of his own, and he's approaching Gretzky, and it's very likely now that he's going to pass the record. But he's just every night, like even this season, he's kind of struggled, but it's been mostly because of the team. Like he's been still playing his same self. He hasn't had as many shots maybe this year as in past years, but I think that's just because other people aren't creating offense. But just watching him play, it's every night he has chances, he buries it. Like on the power play tonight, it was kind of like, had a ripper from the left circle and he scored on it. And it's kind of a casual thing now, but it's just incredible how consistent he's been able to be, even going into his mid to late 30s, just like we are. So
yes, point taken. I mean, I'm a couple years younger than Ovi, and I don't think I can rip anywhere close to that. So not that there's ever a competition, but yeah, he's still scoring at half a goal a game. He's not shooting at anywhere highly above his career average.
Yeah.
I think actually the last few years he's actually going back to like 2017, he's pretty consistently shot at above his career average. It seems like he's changed his game a little bit. I remember writing an article about Ovi back in, it must have been probably about 2017. I think that was the year where he started playing with Kuznetsov a bit more.
Yeah.
And there was a big change in his game from like almost all of his goals the previous couple years were coming off of like the cycle or forechecking plays off the power play. And that year he kind of brought the youth back a little bit and started scoring off the rush a lot more. playing
Yeah.
with Kuznetsov, and now he's got to change again. He's playing with Strome a lot, right?
Yeah.
And it seems
Nah,
like the different combination of centers, he just finds different ways
yeah.
to be himself and grab like different eras of Ovechkin and just get it done.
It's so true. I would even say too that he's actually struggled a little bit with Strome because I guess he's a little bit slower of a skater. I think the biggest thing 5-on-5, Ovi hasn't had a great year 5-on-5, but it's not him. They're missing Tom Wilson. Tom Wilson is out until December, and I know he's a lightning rod for criticism, but I don't think Tom Wilson necessarily gets enough credit for how good of an offensive player he is. And I'm not even saying like, goals and assists, which he is producing like 20 goals, 20 plus, but like it's the amount of space that he brings on the ice and he's able to make high level plays. Last year, I think Ovi was leading 5-on-5 goals and points for like the first couple months of the season. So the fact that he's still a point per game player with all this chaos at 5-on-5 this year has been really impressive to me. I think it just speaks to how great he's been even this year, even though the team just is the high level talent has just kind of been injured around him. And so, and he's not even playing with Kuzi, which I think is kind of the better fit for him, but they haven't been able to find that winger that gives him space because I don't think Kuzi and Ovi are going to go in and be forechecking hard in the corners. You know what I mean? They're more of rush players, high level players who kind of make cross ice passes, things like that to score. So it's been a really interesting season for them from that standpoint. But he's just the same as he's ever been before, and it doesn't make any sense. He should be getting worse. He should be falling off due to age, but he hasn't. Gretzky did. I watched him fall off, and so it's going to be interesting to see how long this lasts and how far he can take it until he's 40. So.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun to see him actually chase down that record. When it gets close, every game is going to be
Yeah.
extremely hype. And he
I,
just doesn't seem to be falling off, really. Like, I know that he's made sacrifices in his game as he's gotten older to continue to produce at the level that he does. Like early in his career, he was like a play driver extraordinaire, and now he's mostly there to score goals, but frankly set them up too. He's added some playmaking the last couple of years that has been really impressive. But he's
yeah.
like the offensive engine, not only but mostly nowadays. Whereas when he came into the league, he just did everything right. Like he almost had a huge defensive
Yeah.
impact
Yeah.
just by how dominant he was on the puck, blowing people up. And tonight, he kind of got like lost in the shuffle a little bit in terms of like he didn't have a very standout game, but then every time he got the puck, you're like, oh, that's Ovechkin.
Crazy.
There he is
It's
again.
crazy. It's crazy. I know tonight he wasn't. I wouldn't even say he was super notable tonight. And like you said, he still got a goal because of that shot. The shot is just he is just. He reminds me of Brett Hall back in the day, where later in his career he just figured out how to use that slap shot, and he could just score like. And I remember Brett Hall scored low to the ice, but Ovi it just rips him.
Yeah.
I think it's hard for goalies to pick up how hard he shoots, and the angle, and it's just been incredible. Yeah. So, just a very fun game for me to watch.
Yeah, and James Johnson in the chat says Milan Lucic slander when. So you know what? I live to please. I live to please. But I will say, for those of you in the chat right now, if you're enjoying the show and you enjoy Peter and Auddie in this game over Calgary situation we got going here, frankly, they're better than the team so far this year. It's not damning with faint praise, I guess, but it's not untrue. Hit the like button on this YouTube stream because it helps us. It helps us go through the algorithm there on YouTube, helps us be recommended to people who are Flames fans, who are browsing YouTube, help us grow the show. And if you really like the show, hit that share button. Put us on your favorite social media. And not after the show, right now. The more people who are in here, the more we can interact with them, the more fun we can have. So help us out. Throw that stuff up on your favorite social media. Hit the like button. Smash the subscribe button for the SDPN YouTube channel. Click that little bell because YouTube has to make it needlessly complicated that subscribing once isn't enough, so you got to subscribe 2 times. Help us out. So Milan Lucic, we're gonna slander him. God, he is terrible.
Why is he still in the league? Frankly, I mean, he's just a big waste of space.
Like for years, like his scoring disappeared, right? But he was still like a somewhat decent play driver, or like around the time that he was first traded to Calgary. Even last year, he had some value. Now he's like worse than the team by every metric, And I know he didn't get a ton of ice time tonight, but it felt like he did because every time he was out there, the game slowed to a crawl to try to like whenever he had the puck, it was like and chug 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 like the train had to get going from a standstill every time. It was brutal to watch. And then we talked about it already, that penalty that
Yeah,
I don't know if Calgary was gonna mount a comeback because I don't think they were playing particularly well, but that penalty swung the game
yeah,
completely. It was
that
over after that.
yeah, I felt like that was the end right there. And he seems like to me like an artifact of what GMs thought the like a good NHL was in like 2004 to me. You know what I mean? Like hooking and holding and grabbing and scrums after every whistle and having to be physical and things like that. And I remember when Tom Wilson was drafted, they were like, this guy could be like Milan Lucic, but I feel like he's miles ahead of him now. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't really understand. He's just one of those guys. I think he's won a Stanley Cup. He has that experience. People try to, kind of like make him more than what he is at this part of his career, which is unfortunate. The only thing he can do is really just, try and create havoc in front of the net and on the boards and get physical. But yeah, I mean, the NHL is so fast right now. It's almost why I struggle with the Caps, is that there's such an older veteran team that when they play teams like the Colorado Avalanche, they don't even look like they're in the same, they just don't even, the talent doesn't even seem like it's remotely similar.
Yeah. Yeah, when you play against a truly fast team that's not just like a fast skating team, but a fast executing team,
Yeah.
like the New Jersey Devils this season, it's truly scary what they can do to a slow team. And Calgary is not the slowest team. They're a big team, but they've got some guys who can skate and some smart guys like Tyler Toffoli, who I thought was pretty great tonight, who kind of are able to play a fast game through his brain, like his hockey sense allows him to play a fast game, but he's not the swiftest skater. But Lucic, it's sad because at least like when you're a coach, you're like, okay, well, this guy's strong, he's big, he's gonna at least like get on the boards and win some puck battles. He couldn't even win a puck battle tonight because he was too slow. Like he'd go in there and the battle's already over by the time he gets to the boards. Like he couldn't even keep his stick engaged. It was a rough ride.
Yeah, and it was against an older Capitals team that's not a great skating team either. So that's saying a lot. So yeah, man. I don't know. Yeah. So what do you see? How do you see the Flames doing? They're kind of middling in their division, right? This was kind of a big loss for them because there's been a lot of sayings that like at Thanksgiving where a lot of teams are, that's usually where they finish towards the end of the year in the standings. And like I'm already really worried about the Caps. They're about four teams behind the second wild card right now.
Yeah, I think with the Flames, I am willing to give them more time just because of the like crazy uprooting they had to do to their top six in the offseason, right? Like not only losing Gaudreau, but then losing Kachuk at the same time, replacing them with Kadri and Huberdeau. And neither of them, I think, have given the performance that you expect of them. Like, I watched Huberdeau in particular tonight, and I just thought he was fighting the puck a lot. And Kadri, in a game that at times got a little bit physical, I didn't see the fire from him that I expected to see. Both guys, I think you got to give them a little bit of time to become full-time Flames in a way. But overall, it doesn't seem like they're great fits at this moment. And I wonder if that's part of the issue with like Daryl Sutter. There was a lot of talk last year about how like Daryl Sutter has like modernized his systems for the modern NHL, and the Flames played a fast-paced game and they were able to score at will, whereas like his LA Kings teams were teams that dominated possession, but it was all like perimeter shots and like high slot at best. They couldn't really get into the middle. And I'm wondering if part of the issue for this Flames team is they're looking a little bit like LA at the end of the Sutter regime. And that is something they need to work on drastically. I went and looked into the roster a little bit just to do some research before I hosted a show on the Calgary Flames. And what I noticed is that a lot of the guys who are leading them in possession are like their shutdown guys, right? You got Toffoli there up high, but like everyone who played with him played for Sutter in LA seems to get a lot of minutes, which For Toffoli, that's good. For Lucic, not so good. But it seems like the guys that he relies on are like his guys, and they're doing well. But then you've got like Kadri, Manjapane, who we know are really good players. Even Lindholm, who like his numbers are okay but not great. Huberdeau, it's like they almost haven't fallen into that system this year, and they're not getting any great results from it. And we know they're good players, so
Yeah.
like eventually that should change, but
You know,
it just
I
doesn't look right now.
one thing I was thinking was that just from observing them just today is they seem to struggle with having an identity. And a lot of times when teams are down, 2 goals, 3 goals, they'll throw out guys. They'll have certain plays that they run. They'll be able to create huge scoring chances or high danger chances just because everybody's being more aggressive. And it just seemed like it was a morass on the ice. Like it didn't seem like they could push it when they wanted to push it that much. And even in the first period when they're out shooting the Capitals and I thought came out pretty quick, it was still pretty much to the perimeter. And so
Yeah.
it just seems like they're struggling with an identity right now. I can totally see that with all the offseason moves. And sometimes some guys, from my experience in the past, seeing guys coming in to new teams, a lot of times they might have been more passengers or guys that benefited from the team at large or certain parts of the system. And you just wonder, it's going to take time for them to find their spots with Daryl Sutter. And that's kind of what I saw as a guy observing the Flames for the first time. And Markstrom, again, he has to make bigger saves too. And in a road game, against Capitals, we're playing pretty well. When you don't get those big saves and you can't score, it's deflating.
Yeah, 100%. And like Markstrom, I feel like this season has not been great, but in this one, like he made some pretty big saves
Yeah,
throughout the game. It's just like obviously the Kuzi one you want, but again, like letting him get through there, who's more at fault, the
yeah.
defensive structure or the goaltender? And when you're a Daryl Sutter team, I feel like nobody should be able to go 1-on-3 score.
The Flames were kind of like looking at Cruz like, oh, he's not going to do. Oh, he's trying something. Oh
He's gonna
no,
do it. Oh my god, yeah.
no. You can kind of see the panic in slow motion. Yeah. And then Kuzi is, this was also a PDO game for the Capitals, and by what I mean by that is that the Capitals' shooting percentage, especially in November, has been awful. They've been really unlucky, and this seems kind of like a lucky game a little bit for them shooting wise, and so. I almost feel like you can kind of chalk it up to that. I don't want to be that guy, but I felt like they were kind of luckier in some of the shots they scored on. And so yeah, it was a very one-sided tilt. And I did not expect that at all. If anything, I thought it'd be the Flames. So
Yeah, right? Like with the
yeah,
way the season's gone for the Capitals, you expect, you're running into a
yeah,
team that has great structure that they're going to come in and kill you, but they weren't able to do that. They weren't able to establish their themselves. And what you were talking about with identity, with teams that struggle, sorry, with identity, everybody's struggling through these
yeah.
respiratory
Me
viruses right
too.
now.
Yep, yep.
Um, I find a lot of times teams that struggle with identity have either big shakeups in the roster or they went into the playoffs as like a really good competitive team. And at some point in the playoffs, they just got their asses completely handed to them. And the Flames had both of those things happen,
Yeah,
right? They had that series against the Oilers where they started out, they looked incredible. And then from the second period in the first game onwards, the Oilers just lit them the hell up. And the Flames could not find an answer defensively or in goal, frankly, because Markstrom was rough for the Edmonton Oilers. And then you had that shakeup in the offseason. I'm wondering if like everyone should have expected the Flames to struggle to start this season because the fact is both those things happened and it's hard to recover from that. So even though it may look like on paper, adding Huberto, Kadri, and Uyghur on instead of Kachuk and Gaudreau is like a net slight positive, it takes time for that to percolate and become a team again.
yeah. And I think you also see in the adversity in these moments. I think the team will probably likely see what they need, and also adversity sometimes brings the best out of people, and hopefully in this situation, Huberto and they can kind of like rise up to the occasion a little bit more as the season goes a little bit deeper. But, I wouldn't write them off at this point. But yeah, it's, you can kind of tell that they're scuffling.
Yeah, my kids just came home from the school, so if somebody jumps into the picture, that's what's going
Oh,
on.
that's good.
Yeah, I just heard Daddy.
Down here in America, we get the day off on Black Friday for some reason. So
Yeah, we don't. It's thankful. I'll be honest. We've had enough long weekends already with how sick everyone is and how much work we have. It's school and daycare are great inventions.
I'll tell you a quick funny thing really quick is that, so, my son is really young and this is his first year of school. He's going into kindergarten. And the other week, he was one of 4 kids in his kindergarten to win an adversity award for how he bounces back and handles issues and problems. And it was really funny to me. My son is like that, but it was really funny to me because he missed like 9 to 10 days of the first term because he was so sick because of the pandemic down here and everybody not really being exposed to germs on the regular. I feel like all these kindergartners are really struggling with sickness. Yep. And so, yeah, it's been crazy, just as a world, just going through it right now. It feels like once we're past one thing, it's another thing. You know what I mean? And,
yeah.
If anyone else out there is feeling frustrated or down by all this, like, just know there's a lot of people out there that are struggling with the same stuff, and we're with you. So
100%. It's like at once incredibly frustrating, but also kind of unifying that everybody's feeling it, right? Between that and inflation and your team sucking. A lot of people can come together. Yeah.
Very depressing time this year.
Yeah, I did want to mention
all these smilers are taking all of my emotional strength.
Hi, buddy. Both of them want to come in. All right, come here, Miles. Come here. Hi.
Right.
This is Miles.
Hey.
He's 2.5.
Nice to meet you.
You want to say hi, Miles?
Hi, Miles. Nice to meet you, sir.
How was daycare, buddy?
Good.
Good.
I was playing.
You were playing?
I was calling. Like this. Hello?
You were calling. Yes, I heard you calling.
Oh, man, what a cutie.
Yeah, they're both great. They're great kids. Love to cough in my face, and that's why I sound like this.
Again, let's get totally gross. I got pink eye this morning because my son was like, he comes into bed sometimes and is scared, because of the dark, and he coughed right in my face. This morning I woke up pink eye. I was like, oh, this is great.
Fun times.
So gross.
The other thing I wanted to mention was Lars Eller, who I've been a big fan of for a very long time as he started his
let's
career
talk about him because
with the Canadiens.
Very complicated right now. Yeah, go ahead.
Hilarious chance where he goes in one-on-one and slashes the guy's stick, take a shot, and the announcers are laughing, and you see him come around the net after, and he's laughing too, and he does like the shrug, like it looked like he was looking at the rep, like, you gonna call it? Like, I had the puck. Is it a slash still? I love that cheekiness.
Yeah.
Careful, Dylan, bud.
So Lars is a great. So like from my perspective, so I know he played for Montreal for a while, and Lars is one of those guys that plays a great two-way game. We're kind of seeing him on the latter end of his career in Washington. He's in the last year of his deal, but he's been great this year, and they've been putting him with Anthony Mantha and maybe at a stronger left wing too. It seems like they've kind of been loading up on the third line to kind of give him some more support. I think he's lost a little bit of his legs, but yeah, he does stuff like that in games sometimes, and you just laugh because stick checking a guy, and if you would have broke the defenseman's stick, I would have been interested. They would have called a slash there. I've never seen that before, where a guy will hack a guy to get a shot off. It was clever. It was really clever. I've never seen it.
I love it. That's he always does weird stuff like that. Like I've always thought Eller is a very smart player. He was very unfairly criticized in Montreal. Yeah. Guys, still a bit too much banging. They've got like toy cymbals because, of course, they know I'm recording, and they're like, "Let's do the noisiest possible thing." But it's funny you say Eller towards the latter half of his career, the latter bit of his career, because like that just makes you feel so old.
I know, right?
Right?
I know.
I was like just starting writing when Eller came into the league, right when the Canadians traded for Lars Eller. It's like my first season covering the Canadians was, uh, I shouldn't bring this up because you're a Capitals fan, but I believe it was the 09-10 season.
Oh God, not that year.
Yeah, so we won't bring up what happened that year for Capitals fans enjoying this, but I will ask you before we close out, Ian. I
Yeah.
did want to ask. Never asked you before. The Russian Machine Never Breaks. The site that you work for, you helped found. Was that something that you guys came up with and just caught on forever, or was it a phrase that you guys saw and were like, "This is perfect. Let's take this"?
Well, there's been a lot of magic with our site that I feel like has been outside of our control. I do want to say that, like, I will be open about this. Is that one of the reasons why I even blog is that so I went to art school. I'm not necessarily a trained technical writer, though I feel like I'm pretty good now. One of the things was I had a relationship that went sour, and one of the things that I told myself after that relationship was that I should dedicate 1 hour of my time every day, no matter what's going on around me, to being creative. And so I created a baseball site called Matt Wieder's Facts that went nuts. And I had always loved hockey the most since like 7 or 8 here in Maryland. And so I love the Capitals. They're my favorite team. Ted Leonsis, he gets a big credit. He was probably the owner that was most open to bloggers coming to games. And a lot of that was because the national press, even now, I feel like doesn't give them enough coverage. And so, I think Ted for me made it feel like, well, if I do this at a high enough level and it's good enough, then we could be treated like everybody else. I think that was one thing. The name came from, so basically Ovi in 2006, basically he took a shot off his foot again in a Coyotes game, and the next day at practice, someone asked him if he was going to play, and he said, "I'm okay. Russian Machine Never Breaks," and he said it in that heavy accent to be funny, and so that kind of caught on in Capitals land. And for us, that phrase for us means creative, fun hockey writing, things like that. Like we want to capture an experience where it's like our writing is as captivating and as fun as the game, and so I would say like we did well in the beginning, and we had a lot of support. But I think the thing that really shook us over the top, and I don't know if you know this, is that in 2013, we were covering Evgeny Kuznetsov while he was playing in the KHL for Tractor Chelyabinsk, and we had a Russian correspondent. And he said there was like an explosion or something crazy in Chelyabinsk, and he told us this at midnight our time. And we're like, we should probably start covering this. So we started translating it and kind of doing an hour by hour, like minute by minute update, and it ended up being the Chelyabinsk meteor.
Oh wow!
And so we ended up being the first site to cover that in English. So, and we had just like enlisted in Google News like a month before. And so we got, I forget how many pages it was, like millions and millions of pages. And the next day, like the Atlantic, which is a big site down here, wrote a story about how a DC sports blog beat the AP on the biggest like space story in a century. And so, we went on TV, and Leon's, we worked with the Capitals on their TV show after that, and like we doubled or tripled our hits after that, and it's been kind of magical since then. Ovi follows us on Instagram now, a bunch of the players do. I saw Bax from the other day. He was like excited to see me, which was weird, So weird in a sense that like, we don't make a lot of appearances at practice, but everybody knows who we are. And so it's been an incredible journey and lucky. You got to be lucky to be good, right? And so, and then Steve Dangle, of course, he's a part of it too, just with some of the silly bets he's done and the support we've gotten from you and other people. So seriously, I'm just grateful and thankful to be able to do this full time, and I'm grateful to be on the show today and talk to Flames fans.
Well, I'm so grateful that you came on today because I know it's a holiday weekend. Kids are at home, and
I love you, man.
Afternoon game. It's a tough one to come on for, so I truly do appreciate it. And thanks to everyone for tuning in here and listening to me talking about the Calgary Flames. If you think I was too harsh on them, let me know in the comments. I feel like this team just has so much more to give than what they're given right now. And hopefully they find that at some point in this season, because I want to see Auddie and Peter in the playoffs again. And hopefully Ian and his Washington Capitals can get there too. Thanks so much for joining us here today, especially to Ian. Follow him at Ian Olin on Twitter. There's his link to Twitter. It should be in the bio for this video. And also check out Russian Machine Never Breaks, because they're fantastic. They've been around forever for a reason. They're huge. So check it out there. Auddie and Peter will be back. Or I don't know who will be back. Auddie or Peter will be back for the next game. And I'll be back on Game Over Montreal. You won't have to see my mug again for a little while. But if you enjoyed seeing it, make sure you click like. Make sure you click subscribe. Share this video. Share the playlist that has all the videos. Subscribe on Spotify or Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts. And enjoy the rest of the season on Game Over Calgary. We'll see you again later on.
See you guys.
Game over! Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.